Okay, set up your meeting for YouTube Live. Yeah, Zoom to YouTube. Directing to YouTube. Ooh, there we are.
We got to get Drew on our show one of these days. He's an active retweeter of our stuff.
He is. Get him back on the show. Sounds like a good idea.
He's been in the availability quite a bit this year.
Okay, let me... paste. Okay, make sure we're up on the GPL portal page. And there we are. Sweet. Up on the portal page. So I can close that now. Speaking of Drew, there he is. Jeez, look at that.
Right in there.
How about next week, Drew? Next Wednesday? Let's see how long it takes for his on. The delay is not too bad. I like that.
He'll hop in whenever.
Okay, let me gotta grab this link here. Copy social. Live on YouTube. Okay, there's that. Okay, now let me tweet that one out. All right. Okay, that's tweeted out. So we got that. Let me look at the. There's only like a couple tweet or questions, but Hapke and Go for Hockey Fan. So I've got that, and then just one last one here. I put this on the YouTube channel as well, or not YouTube, but Facebook. And there it is. Let me post that.
You did something in the portal, apparently, according to our chatters.
What do you mean?
I don't know. Font size is weird. You screwed it up. Broke it. Looks bigger or something when I look at it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it does. Let me fix that real quick. There's probably something in there. That's a good thing. Good thing people paid attention because I wasn't. Give me a second here. Let me get rid of this font size thing. Font size.
I think you added a new, frame or something. Maybe
I was changing the frame and I forgot to do the. I'm trying to use the old school. Old school coding on that. There we go. Much better. That's funny. Thanks, gang, for letting us know. That's why I love having the live listeners.
Wow. What a crew here in the chat.
Oh my gosh, it's Sal. Sal Paradise is in the chat. Wow. Hold on. We're going to start the show in a second here. My phone's blowing up too. Is that from you, Vigs?
No, that's from
Drew. Okay.
Potential guest.
No,
he's too busy. Big deal. Probably going to be in St. Paul that day.
Okay, we got this. We got the post. We're live. We've got 16 people watching already, so that's good. Let me refresh on portal there, Steve. Yeah. I had a font bracket. I was using old school HTML there. So, and one more thing. Let's get this up here. Screen's never big enough. And all right. And this time I'm going to remember to hit record on Zoom, record to the cloud.
So much going on right now. Love it. Opening night hockey.
Oh, I know.
We're going up against Pat Micheletti and his Beyond the Pond live show that they stole from our idea, maybe.
Well, hey, we've been doing live, maybe not video, but we've been doing live for a long time.
Yeah.
At least audio wise. So.
Oh, geez.
So, let's do this real quick. All right. That's a little better. Okay, dokie. Recording all ready to go. All right. Let's start the show. This is the GPL Podcast, sponsored by Jerry Peters and First Class Mortgage. Our expertise, your peace of mind. Visit us at firstclassmortgage.com. Now, here's Jupe and Vigo. Good evening and welcome to the GPL Podcast, episode number 183. Well, Vigs, no guest this week. It's just you and I to talk about just some Gopher Puck. And, as I put on the live broadcast, one streak ends, another one begins. Meaning, as Matsko would say, sometimes someone's going to punch us in the face or punch us in the nose, whatever. And that happened at game one against the Badgers.
Yeah, I think we expected a good matchup with Wisconsin. They have a lot of talent on their roster, and it seemed like they're playing a little bit more competitive hockey. I think the surprising thing out of that first game of the series was the strength of their goaltending. I thought their goaltending played better than I expected it to be and kept them in the game. There were a lot of rebounds available for Gopher forwards to pounce on, but they just never were able to really find them. And just couldn't close the gap.
Well, I always been predicting sweep. Couldn't do it. I feel terrible about that. I feel like I let everyone down, but you know how it is. In the long run, I think I like the lessons learned, and that when another team brings it, like Wisconsin did, Vigs. Wisconsin was busting their ass all weekend, and it took it took the Gophers to kind of raise their game on game two to get a split in Wisconsin.
So here's where I'm going to maybe go off the rails a little bit.
Go for it.
I don't think it was so much that they weren't playing well on the first game of the series, Saturday night. I think what the issue was is they weren't working hard enough to get goals and that secondary scoring chances. They got plenty of opportunities. Their power play got a couple of chances. Their penalty kill was pretty good on the weekend. But sometimes when you're in that game where you're not getting the bounces, you have to raise it to an even higher level and outplay the team you're playing. You can't just match them. And you can't just have to answer the bell. You have to take it to another level and really just take control of the game and force your own luck. Because I think you're going to get in games in college hockey that are going to be 1-goal games. So you're going to have to get more effort than they're used to giving. You can't play with a lead all the time. One of these times you're going to get bounces against you. Like on Sunday's game, Wisconsin hit a pipe pretty soon after Walker's goal. Mm-hmm. If that goes in, maybe Wisconsin gets a little more energy and gets a go-ahead goal, and the Gophers are in that same position where they just have to create just a little bit more. So I don't think it was necessarily they didn't come to play. They didn't bring their effort. I thought they actually played kind of okay on Saturday. It's just sometimes you need a little bit more
to finish the deal.
Yeah, to finish the deal, because you're going to be in games like that where you don't get the bounces.
I also noticed as I was sitting there kind of as a fan, like there was just even, both nights, there was just some, bounces where the net was wide open. It would just bounce over a stick or a Wisconsin player would check a stick real late or something like that. It just seemed like the bounces weren't quite going their way. Whereas I would say maybe early in the season, they had quite a few fortunate bounces.
Yeah, I think there may be a few fortunate bounces there, but you just also have to be in position where you're just going to be like, I'm not going to let this puck bounce through me. I'm not going to let my stick get lifted. And you just have to really fight through it. I think missing Scott Reedy maybe hurt them a little bit from that standpoint, because he's one of those players where he can play a hard, dirty, tight game and create space for himself and not be moved. I think some of the other players, like, they're still going through the motions on how to compete in a game like that. And to win, especially as we look ahead to a potential NCAA tournament run, you're going to have to create your own luck sometimes. And I think that's kind of that next step. I don't think it was, they were checked out and got outplayed that much.
And like you mentioned earlier, the goaltending for Wisconsin was much better than we've seen the past few years. He really played well.
He played well on the first shot, and sometimes, a decent goaltender, that's all you ask of them is make that first save. We'll clean up the rebounds. We won't let players get second chances. We'll clear the puck. And he did that. I think sometimes, an elite top level goalie doesn't give up the rebounds. And in the game, rebounds were there. I asked
both
the players. Yeah, both sides. I asked the players about that. They're just like, we knew they were there. We just needed to keep pounding them and keep finding pucks. And I think that's a good lesson for them to go into this series with Notre Dame coming up, is rebounds are there if you shoot in the right spots. So good lessons to get on film, and we'll see what they take from it. I was very encouraged to see Walker and McLaughlin start to play like they can play. I kind of noticed it a little bit the first game. They were a little more engaged, McLaughlin especially. The second game, I thought Walker got more engaged.
Yeah, that's what's kind of, I was going to roll into, McLaughlin and Walker, because they definitely have stepped up their game the last couple of games. And so much so that, Motzko was saying he really likes that they finally, he even said today, it's not that they were playing bad. We just needed them to score. They were doing a lot of the other things, but now we just need that, okay, guys, you're doing great. Now we need you to put the puck in the net. And they've kind of started doing that.
Yeah, they're starting to do that. I think McLaughlin's got a couple tips and things where he's around the net. He can be a real pest to play against. When he's engaged and he's into the game and he's not getting into little fights with players, but he's actually sticking to productive hockey, he's a gnat out there and can be difficult. And I think one of the things that they did especially well in the second game is back pressure, and they could create some transition opportunities. And that's where they really shine. I mean, you look at them on the penalty kill, how hard they are to play against, because usually they start with Nelson and Myers, and then they go into McLaughlin and Walker, and their speed just puts so much pressure on the other team that they can create turnovers. Now, the thing is, you got to get your turnover, and then you got to go. I asked Blake McLaughlin about that today. It's like, what's the key to getting transition? It's like, if the D haven't gapped up yet and you can create a turnover and get some pace, you've put them into a really bad situation. They've got to decide, do I gap up to close the gap so you don't have tons of time once you get the entry? Do they sit back and let you get a clean entry and have time and space to make a play on the rush? That's the challenge against those guys when they're really going.
One thing that was also brought up at the media session today was, Motzko was talking about his fourth line, which we don't really call it that, but for one thing, he really loves Cullen Munson. He loves his 110% that he gives on every shift. But the combo of Munson and Jackson Nelson, he was really praising that group.
Well, I think Jackson Nelson has really grown this year as a reliable player, and I think he'll make any line work when he's on the ice. He's got such length that it's difficult to get to the center of the ice, and he's a good skater. He can get up and down the rink. He's been really good on draws. I think the problem is sometimes when you have lower lines with less talented players, if they lose a draw in their defensive zone and they're out against a skilled opponent, can really put you on your heels. You get tired, you start chasing the puck, lose your structure, bad things can happen. I think with him, he can win a lot of faceoffs and get you going in the right direction, especially with the defenseman that Minnesota has on their blue line.
And that's kind of what, Muska was saying today. He says, I love putting those guys out against, the other team's top line. I know they're going to do well. They're going to keep pressure on that line defensively and offensively. And then doing that could cause, better matchups for them, when all of a sudden, maybe that third or fourth line comes out for the other team. And then all of a sudden now you have the mismatch because that your fourth line is not a liability, whereas other teams, your third and fourth line could be a liability.
Sometimes they'll worry about that, hearing that from a coach where he doesn't care about the line matchups. I would almost want him to say, if the other team wants to do that to us, then I intentionally as a coach want to put my first line against your fourth line and see how that goes. Because from my perspective, some of the nights where he's been trying to figure out how to use Walker and McLaughlin and get them going, I would like to see them out against another team's fourth line, because the speed and pressure that they can put on an unskilled line is a difference maker, and that could really get them going. And I've seen that a couple nights where they'll start, with the Myers line and then going to the Reedy line and then going to the Walker line. And I think that's a nice thing to try to get those guys going, because I think some of those other players, they can kind of play against anybody. They play a little heavier game, but I think that Walker McLaughlin line can really take advantage of a mismatch if the other team's going to give it to you.
Do we know what happened to Reedy?
We don't. It's been very.
Didn't he play? He played the first game, didn't he?
Yeah,
and he was really quiet though. Maybe that's why he went out during that game and I didn't notice it. But
yeah, I think he played through the end, and some people were saying, maybe he's stretching his back or something. Something maybe came up, upper body thing. Mm-hmm. But it's been real quiet from you. It's interesting. I was listening to Mazzacco in the post game with Motzko, and he's like, what I really like about you, Bob, is you never short answer us. You always give us a good long answer. And then just seconds later, because I'm trying to time up the radio post game with the media availability.
Yep.
Motzko gets asked by Jess, any update on Reedy? Motzko, nope. I was like, you just short answered Jess. I mean, if there's somebody in our media scrums who's going to get short answered, I think it's going to be Jess these days.
You crazy?
Those two get after each other pretty good sometimes. It's all in good fun, though.
It is. Well, I just kind of wanted to mention for those of you maybe listening to the podcast that, we record this usually on Wednesday nights around 9:30. And one thing we've always done is done some type of live broadcast, either whether it was just audio for many years. But this year we're doing the YouTube thing where we're streaming live. And so people can go and watch us on YouTube as we record. And, we've got it's like 28 people right now watching us live. So if you want to participate in the podcast, this is your way to do it. Just come on, watch us on YouTube, when we tweet it out, or just follow us on our YouTube channel. If you subscribe, you'll get notified when we're live and even when we post other videos. And then you can, when we're sitting here recording our podcast, you can ask us questions and give us your thoughts and just throw your ideas at us. What do you want us to discuss? So make sure if you're listening live or you're listening on recording, give us a try and watch us live. It's something we've been doing for a long time, but I'm just kind of reiterating it, Viggs.
Yeah, I know Eric's in the chat right now asking if he thought Motzko made a mistake pulling Laffer with a couple minutes to go in the game.
A power play.
I know you were one of the guys, I think, that criticized it live, maybe on Twitter.
I don't remember.
It was either you or Chris. Was Chris on the
No,
GPL?
It was me on the feed the other night.
That was you. Maybe too much gin.
Okay. I didn't drink that night. Maybe it's just old. I'm forgetting.
Okay. You made a critique, but I personally liked the move. If you're out there on the power play and the other goalie has been giving up rebounds all night, having that extra attacker in that situation is what you want. Mm-hmm. Because that the rebounds are going to be there and that you have the opportunity to put one of those back. It's probably the easiest way to score in hockey is a rebound where the goalie's out of position and you're uncovered. If you have two extra players out there, you should have two guys free to jump pucks on rebounds, and they should be uncovered, no stick on them. It's the easiest play in hockey. Just jump a loose puck and fire it home to an empty net. So I like having the extra player out there. The problem is you had a freshman defenseman, Caster, who's tired maybe, and just misplays a puck and it goes the other way and you would lose the game. Maybe if you have a more veteran player out there who's not tired, he makes the smart play, maintains possession of the zone, you keep going. But I like that playing a goal.
Do you like to do it for the whole time? I mean, they could have, because, oh boy, what was it? When did the penalty happen? About 40 seconds, 240 or something? I can't remember. Maybe the first minute keep it even or keep it one man plus, and then maybe play your guy. Obviously, hindsight's 2020, so it's.
I like making that decision.
Yeah,
when you have possession and maybe you're out against a tired penalty kill and you get that extra pressure. I like it in that situation. Sometimes I like it, especially if you had like a 6-on-3. I like having 3 extra players out there for that kind of situation because you can force the penalty kill into a situation where they're outgunned. And if the pucks are going to be there, you want those extra players.
Yeah. Yep. Let's set up a Twitter question. Hockey fan 2020. Not a great year there, hockey fan. Can't you pick a better? Maybe change it to 2021 or something. I know this could all change due to COVID. How do you guys see the NCAA tourney playing out for hockey? Top 16 in the polls make the tourney. Conference winners with auto bid. Love to hear your thoughts. Great show. Keep up the work. Huh? Thanks for the praise. We may not know for a while. And they may even leave it up to the league. Say, hey, do you want your auto bid to your playoff champion, regular season champion? Is it going to be a smoky room like it was in the past? But maybe there's no smoking now. But it's really hard to speculate right now because we just don't have any idea what's going to happen there.
I just hope I get invited to the Zoom call.
Fly on the wall?
Yeah, fly on the wall. Maybe Don will invite me. But I think we'll see.
Hey, the Don likes you. You didn't rip on him as much as the rest of us.
It's the hair. He respects the hair.
Yeah, you are. Look at it. If you're listening, you can't see, but Vig's flow is starting to come in pretty good. I've seen it much longer.
It has been longer, but I think it's in good shape right now.
Got some great photos when it was like down to here at one of the WCHA Final Fives years ago.
Maybe a little too long at that point, but I've been repping the Dapper Wolf haircut, and it's a good gig, so I enjoy it. But I think we'll see the automatic qualifiers from each of the leagues get in. I think there's going to be conference tournaments for all the leagues. They'll figure out a way to get that team in there. And then the rest, I think the coaches are just going to figure it out. They're going to look at who are the best teams. I think we know that most years. It helps to have the pairwise numbers because it's a lot of fun for us to try to figure out the scenarios on the last night of the tournament. But we usually know who the teams that deserve to get in are. And maybe the pairwise helps us get there. But you can look at Hockey East, NCAC, Big Ten, WCHA, ECAC, you know who the best teams are in those leagues usually by the end of the year. It helps, if you're trying to figure out, does the NCHC really deserve 4 teams? You're not going to know that this year. And I don't think the other leagues will let them get 4 teams in, despite Josh Fenton kind of trying to campaign for something like that, where you look at the history. I think they'll get 3.
Yeah.
The big question is the Big Ten. Could they get 3? Could they get 2? That's where it comes in because ECAC obviously doesn't have very many teams to put forth this year.
And it's also looking like the regionals might be sticking at the regionals.
Maybe.
I mean, that's what Schlossman was saying earlier this week. It looks like it's going to be at Shields in Fargo.
That's what he's hoping. We'll see what happens. I could see them consolidating to super regional sites or something like that, but it's really hard to know what they're going to do. This would be the perfect year to do an on-campus best of 3 first round, but that won't happen. It'd be fun though.
Total go 2-game series.
I don't know if I'd go so far as the old school, which might have been the worst with the mini game. If it was tied, I would not like that. But I do like the best of 3 at a campus site for the first round. That'd be a lot of fun.
The chatters are liking your flow there, Viggs. Mote, elite hockey flow.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, there you go. Got to have the auto bids for crappy conferences. I mean, AIC, I can't even say it, did beat St. Cloud. That's coming from Brent, Mr. Hoven himself.
They did. And the team that comes out of Atlantic hockey at the end of the year, they're going to be a gritty, old veteran squad that's playing well. And that's not an easy out for a talented fancy pants team. And it's not going to be an easy out. There are no easy outs in college hockey at the end of the year. If you can get out of your conference tournament, you're going to be tough to beat. And you're going to have a game where the team says, all right, we're going to play hard-nosed hockey. We're going to play percentage hockey. We're going to take pucks to the net. We're going to look for rebounds. We're going to stay out of the box. And if you don't do that, you're going to get beat.
You know, a couple of guys mentioned BU's only played 2 games this year. They're really struggling out east, Biggs. They just are.
Yeah,
it could hurt those big traditional programs like a BU.
Yeah, I don't know if you can get in that situation like where Ohio State only played 6 games and still got through in college hockey if you've only played 12 games. I don't think that's enough of a resume to clearly identify if you're in that top 16. It's a lot trickier, I think, unless you go undefeated maybe in Hockey East in your BC or BU.
It's a goofy year. We just have to adjust on the fly, and that's what teams have been doing. You see it in the NCHC. They've pushed out some series this weekend. Just a couple days, nothing too major. But I mean, the women's hockey team, especially the WCHA, it's been all over the place. But speaking of the women, both the women and the men now ranked number 1 for the first time at the same time since 2014. Minnesota ruling college hockey, Vigs.
It's fun to see, isn't it? Love to see it.
And I believe the Saturday game with Wisconsin and Minnesota women is going to be on FSN.
Well, that would be great if that's the case.
I know. I heard one of them is going to be on FSN, and it might be right before the Minnesota Notre Dame game this weekend. So it's just nice that hockey's back. Like we were talking before the show, it's like NHL's back on. We got something to watch now. I was kind of going back and forth with Schlossman a little bit. Was it today? Saying, hey, now North Dakota has played every day of the week, and as of this week, when we played on a Saturday, we have now officially played on every 7 days of the week. Oh, here the traditional is like Friday, Saturday. I'm like, I think it's been kind of refreshing with nothing else going on. It's been nice, like on a Monday night. I've got to go for hockey I can watch. It hasn't bothered me so much, especially since the NHL isn't playing. And then funny, it's the NHL starts playing now. And we've got a Thursday, Friday series next week. Then it's all Friday, Saturday the rest of the season, at least, barring no delays. I can't complain with the schedule this year, Viggs.
I can't complain with it because it's a pandemic and we can't go to the arena. It's a little more tolerable when it's on TV, but when the games are at Mariucci Arena, 3M at Mariucci Arena, it's nice to have it on a Friday and Saturday. And I totally respect that and get it. I don't mind having some of the things around the holidays be moved around, to fit TV slots and maybe get extra eyes on a game. Like when they tried the North Dakota game on Thanksgiving, I thought that was kind of a fun little thing for them to try to allow college hockey to maybe shine a spotlight on that one. Mm-hmm. I don't mind things like that every once in a while, but I think, hopefully next year we get back into the Friday, Saturday routine like we have coming up for the rest of the year.
It will be nice to get back to normal. And like I said, the NHL starting, so I won't be as bored, but the hockey, obviously the Wild starting up tomorrow night. They're playing a 54 game season, something close to that.
Something around there, 54, 56 maybe.
And they're having COVID issues as well. What is it? It seems like half the Dallas Stars are out with COVID. So, NBA is having issues. When they were all locked down, just a couple months ago, they did an excellent job. Both leagues were just off the charts good. But now, boy, it's going to be a tricky road for those two leagues.
Now, there's so much community spread right now with this virus that it's difficult, I think, for these teams to get by if they have people who aren't disciplined. And even if they are disciplined, there's still ways for them to get the virus and not know. And then you get an outbreak on a team and they're going to have to pause. And I know with college hockey, I don't know how the NCHC is going to figure out how to schedule their full schedule if these outbreaks keep happening. And they're going to have to start truncating it at some point. The Big Ten's built in that extra week to try to
all it takes is a couple series, and then all of a sudden 1 week's not enough.
Right. Exactly. So I think we should be counting ourselves lucky to see as much Gopher hockey as we've seen so far this season. And maybe, the team has got some herd immunity to it that might protect it as the season goes on, but we'll see.
Well, before we get into a few more questions from the chatters and one from Twitter, we need to hear from our sponsor.
Hey, fellow GPLers, this is Jerry Peters from First Class Mortgage. Interest rates are near all-time lows and property values are on the rise. Lower your interest rate and remove monthly PMI at the same time to save thousands of dollars. Or use the equity in your home for debt consolidation and home improvement. The housing market is still hot, so make sure you're prepared by getting a pre-approval letter from me before you start shopping. Mention you heard about me on the GPL podcast and receive a $300 closing cost credit. Some restrictions do apply. Call me today at 612-940-3291 or visit firstclassmortgage.com to fill out a free online application. My NMLS number is 480200. First Class Mortgages is 322842. This is not an offer to lock into an interest rate agreement under Minnesota law. First Class Mortgage is an equal housing lender.
All right. Of course, we thank Jerry for continuing to sponsor the podcast. I'm seeing a bunch of questions here in the chat, but let's first get over to another Twitter question. We'd like to hit those first. Tim Hapke, he's always asking questions. And he's like, what are the requirements to be a grad assistant? Do they need to take a certain number of classes? Could it be for a master's degree as well? He votes for Thomas Vanek to come on as the next grad assistant next year. I mean, maybe he might have seen the video he posted from the media availability today. He's, they're talking about, Paul Martin in the fall was taking 4 or 5 classes, wasn't there as much. Now he's taking 1. He's there more. He loves having Paul there. Him and Raboyne are like this, they're real close. They're working well together. And he was even saying, I wish we could keep him for another year. I guess that's meaning that Paul's kind of really actually finishing up his schooling and it'll be time to move on. So do you know much about that how all that works, Viggs?
I believe you have to be an undergrad student to qualify for this program. So I don't think Paul can pursue a master's degree and still be an assistant coach this way. But I know it's been bandied about that Vanek would be a potential fit as a grad assistant. He hasn't graduated from college yet. Maybe
he's probably got quite a bit of schooling left.
Yeah, probably does. So probably would have to get into that. I know Martin's just got the 1 class right now. So that's probably an ideal situation for him to help out with the team and manage 1 class, because 4 and 5 classes and trying to do all the stuff that's involved with coaching is pretty complicated, especially, everything else that's going on in life these days. But yeah, I think it is a good partnership. Rabs is a pretty high strung individual and very intense. Paul is definitely not that.
Mr. Chill.
He is pretty chill dude. And I'm sure he's easy for some of the players to gravitate to, as Motzko was talking about during availability today. And he just probably has a different perspective on everything, whereas Rabs is pretty focused on penalty kill and positioning and footwork and sticks. Paul's a little more free flowing on things.
Let me see, Brian in the live chat. Any predictions on a Frozen Four? Minnesota, BC, St. Cloud, North Dakota, perhaps. Those are the 4 top teams in the polls right now. I don't think that's a bad selection there you got, Brian. Definitely, boy, wouldn't that be fun? And I noticed a couple others saying, hey, maybe even Wisconsin sneaks in there because, they're a good team as well. And, they've got the talent, especially the young talent to do it. It's just, like we've kind of said the last couple of years, they just haven't been able to quite get it together. But boy, they're on the rise as well. I mean, what are some other teams you could see getting to the Frozen Four? However, this NCAA thing turns out, V's.
I mean, I could definitely see Michigan getting there with as much firepower as they have now that they'll have their
they
team
haven't really
together.
put it together though yet. I mean, they're kind of, they're like 500 right now. They need to really kick it up and start winning some games.
I think it's difficult right now with all those things around World Juniors and getting your team organized for a team like that to be on the rails. And now that we're in the second half where teams are in their usual schedules of a game every weekend, that's going to give Mel Pearson a lot of time to teach those young forwards how to play disciplined hockey. Because as you get in the Big Ten, like Minnesota's going to see this weekend with Notre Dame, you have to play positionally sound hockey to be successful. And when you have young forwards like that who like to take chances and play offense, they don't always see that side of the game until you can really show it to them in video. And you can see a lot of growth in the second half for a team like that.
But you look at this past weekend, at home, Michigan State comes into Michigan, and was it 9 different scorers, 9 goals? Goalie gets 2 assists on the night. Whoa. And then the next night they lose at Munn. So Michigan, they've got to get some consistency before they think about moving up.
Yeah. But we've seen that out of Michigan State before when they played the Gophers and had a tough first night. They come ready to play the next night. They get the message, college hockey players can flip switches like that. These are young kids, it's easy to see
you
a 9-0 game.
9-zip. That's embarrassing.
It is.
That's
Minnesota last year against North Dakota got absolutely run out of the building, and the next night played better. It can happen. It can happen.
They're also saying don't forget about Duluth. Yeah. I don't think anyone's going to forget about Duluth, Figs. They're the 2-time national champion. They were coming on again last year. Don't sleep on those Bulldogs.
It feels to me that unless North Dakota, Duluth, and St. Cloud fall apart, those look like the 3 teams from the NCHC. I mean, maybe we could see another team from that league rise up and steal a spot or maybe get a 4th spot. But those 3 programs, they've earned it over the last couple of years.
Mote. What about Manstinko?
I mean, Mike Hastings has built up a lot of cred the last couple of years. I thought they probably had their best chance to win an NCAA tournament game last year. I feel bad for the guy. He had guys come back. He had a productive team. They were in a good position. Maybe they learned something from their really collapse against Providence when they gave up 3 goals in 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
You learn from that and maybe move forward. But it's hard to know how many schools out of the WCHA can get in. Bowling Green looks like they're the team that's got the best record right now, but it's hard.
Yeah, that whole league's a mess right now. They're having a little more COVID problems than the rest. And yeah, Bowling Green was doing well, and then they split with Bemidji last weekend or something like that. And that's the WCHA is a big question mark right now. It just is.
Oh, we don't know how good the WCHA is because we don't have the interconference games to really judge. Are they deserving of more than one team? And which sometimes, when Minnesota State plays this schedule they have, they can show their book of business, as Mike Hastings like to call it, and you go, wow, they held their own against the big time teams. Maybe they deserve a shot. We don't have that this year. Sorry. Your book of business is C Corps or something. I don't know.
Your book of business is, you've lost 2 teams in your league. Is Huntsville playing this year?
I'm pretty sure they are, right?
I haven't heard anything from them, I guess.
I don't know.
Vig's gonna get on the Google and look it up. I just haven't heard. I haven't heard much from Huntsville. I mean, we've heard about, hey, there you've got some donors about trying to keep the program going, even though they don't have league next year. But I guess I haven't heard if they're actually playing this year.
You got to let me know in the show prep what we're going to get into. I don't study a lot of
that's what I like about the
show.
show. I just kind of go on the fly. I used to take all these notes and things like that, and I never follow it. I'm like, we'll just fake it. Brent Hovind says they're playing.
Yep, they're 2-5-1. So I don't think they're doing too great. So 8 games though, that's good.
Yeah.
Bowling Green, they've got their 14 games played. That puts them ahead of the WCHA, I guess. So
they had fans, Tim Hackey says. So
got to get revenue somehow. Cam Talbot can't pay the entire freight for them. Although we heard they've got
no, Brent. I'm saying they lost 2 teams this year because the Alaska schools aren't playing this year. I mean, because of COVID. Obviously, they're kicking out 3 teams, is forming their own new league. But the Alaska teams just aren't even playing this year, which would have been their last year on the WCHA anyway. So Notre Dame coming to town, Vigs. Low-scoring affairs, close games. It's what we always see with Notre Dame, no matter if it's here, there, or anywhere. McLaughlin was saying this afternoon that, he's had some good memories. He's had some bad memories, but the bad memory, when he was in the box, controversial call, overtime penalty, that one still hurts the most. But one thing I do like about that is that, he remembers that. That's still that was a couple seasons ago. And that's still in his mind. And, it's those kind of things that can build a rivalry. And that's kind of what we talked about this afternoon with the media is that, is this Notre Dame team starting to become a good rival of Minnesota?
Well, they've got enough players with Minnesota ties as well that
and
the
a brand
players,
new one.
Yeah. And a new one in Jake Boltman, who is in the lineup, in the top 4 defensemen for the Irish. He's a talented player, hard player to go up against, physical guy. It'll be interesting to see if he's got any, grudges towards Minnesota since he didn't have a spot in the program and wanted to play college hockey sooner than later. So it'll be fun to see him in the lineup. I'm sure he's looking forward to it. But it should be a good matchup. There's a lot of Notre Dame alums in Minnesota. And they're very proud. Yep. Don
will be wearing his Notre Dame jersey this weekend.
Jacket. He'll have his letter jacket on. Maybe he'll watch Rudy sometime this week. Get excited for it. But I think it is a good series. The only thing with Notre Dame is they do play that defensive style that's complicated to play against. I think I heard one of the Gopher assistant coaches once go, "Why would you go to Notre Dame? They don't let you try to score goals. Wouldn't you like to do that at Minnesota? We play offense here." So it's a battle of styles that I think requires some discipline out of Minnesota. And I feel like there's enough, experience now in the roster where they can hold their own against Notre Dame. I don't think they turn the puck over a lot at the blue lines. We haven't had that discussion a lot this year where you go, gosh, stop turning the puck over at the blue lines. They are much more disciplined when they don't have numbers, putting the puck deep and retrieving it and getting on the forecheck. And they're putting it in the right spots too. So that makes me think they're not just doing it because they think that's what they're supposed to do. It's part of the game plan and they're following through it.
Now, someone was mentioning this in the chat earlier, how Wisconsin was really pressuring us a little more than other teams. Notre Dame's going to see this. Oh, Minnesota doesn't play so well when you pressure them. Maybe they try to do the same thing. Will we see that, or was it just a fluke, or maybe just Wisconsin was just being over aggressive? How do you feel about that?
I think a little bit of that is Wisconsin being over aggressive. I think that's the style that they like to play, especially on the penalty kill. They want to try to apply pressure when they can. And if you're not on time to apply pressure, you pull back. I think Notre Dame, very rarely will they apply pressure right from the get-go. And I think sometimes that makes it easier for Minnesota to play against them because they have the time to set up and regroup with the puck and gain some speed. It's just you have to know how to put the puck deep and apply pressure and disguise it so you're not too predictable. Because if you're predictable on where you're putting the puck, Notre Dame will just leak a guy back to get there quick, and they'll be coming back, and you'll have that rock fight that Bob talked about last year, where you're just putting it back, they put it in your end, you put it back, they put it in your end, and that's not fun to watch.
And one thing too is that, one thing that Wisconsin brought is that they've got a couple superstars on offense. You make a mistake, they make you pay for it. We saw that directly when Lacombe lost the puck to Mr. Caulfield, and wasn't more than 15 seconds later the puck was in the back of the net. I don't know if Notre Dame's got that kind of superstar that could really cause those kind of issues. But it was something that Wisconsin did exploit this past weekend. So,
yeah, I thought Wisconsin did pretty well applying the pressure when they had the opportunities. Cole Caulfield is obviously a different level, scorer, and he does look like a more complete player than he's been in the past. He's a little heavier on things and finds space a little bit better. I think sometimes you get these talented players, sometimes they cheat at the start line, and that means they have to slow down for the finish line, and it allows everybody else to catch up. If you're a fast, talented player, you want to back up that start line as far back as you can so that you don't have to slow down. You want to be able to say, all right, let's do a real 100-meter race. I don't want to make this an 80-meter race and then I wait for you. You want that to be full speed to the end. And he's starting to get that now. And I think one of the things I noticed in the second game against Wisconsin is that when Minnesota does a better job of staying with their check, coming into their own zone, when there is a transition, they're able to get going and separate from their check as they transition from defense to offense. And I think sometimes in the ASU series and the first night against Wisconsin, that wasn't there. You had players kind of floating around the zone, not really tight to their check. So when there was a turnover, it's less clear where you can go to get to open ice, if that makes sense. And so
yeah,
offense definitely comes from defense. If you're in the right spot on defense, it's a lot clearer where you need to go to find space. If you're kind of already in space and not covering anybody, it's hard to get going. Like you kind of have to wait for space to develop. And so I think that's one of the things that they're seeing in film is that, all right, let's be with our check and let's separate when we need to get going.
All right. Time for prediction. Notre Dame, always low scoring series. I'm thinking I'm picking sweep. Shocking. But I do think, Minnesota plays a little different game that they have been playing the last couple of years. They're more pressuring. They're following, like you said, they're following their checks. They're just doing things better. So I don't think every game is going to be a one game. I think we might get one of these games this weekend. It's maybe a 2 or 3 goal win. Not what we're used to, but I'm just predicting something a little different, just to throw a monkey wrench in their Vegas.
Ooh. I mean, I feel like it's hard to play Notre Dame's style at Mariucci. I think it can be tricky to do that. You get on the wider rink, the bigger corners. It's harder to play that choking style. And especially, I don't see this as being one of Notre Dame's strongest rosters.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have the high-end talents that they've had a couple of years ago, where they can control the game with veteran centers who can win draws and make you defend all night. I don't think they have a team like that this year.
And they're not as solid in goal either.
They're not as solid in goal. I think Pavanka's a good 1C. He's a good player for them, but he's not an elite 1C like we've seen from them in the past, where he'll go out and take every key faceoff and be expected to win 70% of them. But I do have a feeling one of these games is going to go to OT. That's just the feeling I have. And that's kind of a up in the air piece. I think Gophers get 5 points this weekend.
5 points.
5 points. Not 6. 5.
Mote had the drum roll going. He was waiting for you there.
Yeah, I just don't see Notre Dame being able to pull off a win, but I think they can force them to go to OT maybe.
It's going to be a sweep, man. It's going to be a sweep.
All right. Well, I think it's important for Notre Dame to stay out of the box against Minnesota. Their penalty kill is not very good this year. So
and Minnesota's is really good.
And Minnesota's is really good.
And their power play is better than average.
I would not mind a special teams battle this weekend. We'll see what happens. We have seen a couple undisciplined penalties from the Gophers this season. Not a lot, but they have been taking a few bad penalties. in the
Mr.
offensive zone.
Walker.
He's got a couple of them.
Yeah.
He's got a couple of them. Brodzinski's got a couple. Perbix has a couple. I know McLaughlin's had some in the past. That's going to be important for them this weekend is to maybe spur Notre Dame to take some penalties, but stay out of the box yourself.
You working on anything these days?
I'm working on my family. This pandemic's tough on families with young kids. My kids have been doing some distance learning and things like that. So
you've already done it all. You might as well do that, man.
Yeah. So I'm looking to have some stuff out this season. We'll see. It all kind of depends how the next couple of weeks goes with schooling and family and all that stuff. I'm starting to get a lot of good content together, and I've got a couple ideas that we'll see soon.
And hopefully they give you the keys back at the Athletic, man.
We'll see. It'd be nice if Minnesota keeps winning.
It's a shame that this is a COVID season because I think this is kind of the time where all of a sudden we start seeing the crowds coming back because this is more of a winning team. And geez. And you know what else is a good thing? The Badgers being back. I'm just going to keep saying it. A good Badger team is good for Minnesota and it's good for Minnesota. It just is.
If you have a good Michigan, a good Wisconsin, and a good Minnesota, you're going to have a good Big Ten. If those three programs can all get their feet under them and start running and playing in NCAA tournaments, I think this conference can hang in there and be viable. and I think that maybe Pearson and Granado are maybe getting an idea of how to do that because Bob definitely does. Mm-hmm. He's got a good roster right now. And I think the key for Minnesota recruiting wise is going to be to keep finding defensemen like the ones they have in the pipeline. They've got Chelsea and Middlestat coming down the line here, but they're going to have to keep finding those guys. That's what makes this team hum.
It definitely does. Well, remember, you can always follow Vigo at eVigo on Twitter, and obviously go for Puck Live on Twitter as well, because no one wants to follow my personal account. I'm not that interesting. But that's really going to do it for this podcast. You got anything else, Vigs? Because I don't.
Enjoy the games while you can. Every game is a gift.
Boy, that is the truth, because you just never know when things will end. Well, we will be back next week for, and recap this Notre Dame series and preview another series with Arizona State coming back into town. For those of you watching live on YouTube, stay tuned for some overtime. For the rest of you, we'll be back next Wednesday for another GPL podcast. Thanks for listening. All right.
I'm going to get my beer of the week here.
Grab your beer, man. Oh, we got a Bulldog fan in there. Go Bulldogs. I don't know about that. Don't know if I can handle that. I'm just kidding. We welcome all college hockey fans to the podcast and watching live. Let's hit stop recording. Don't need to record anymore. At least we don't need to record for this.
Let's see if I can do this.
All right, let's go to full screen. Oh, not full screen. Hold on, just give me a second here. Got to go to speaker view so you can talk and go ahead.
Okay.
What's the beer of the week?
We've got a beer from Portage Brewing Company up in Walker, Minnesota. This one is called Split Decision. And it's a crowler, so it's a tall boy.
Yeah, you'll be feeling it tonight.
Rube in a darkness beer. I've got one of those tucked away at some point. Maybe I'll have one of those if go for
Brent's,
sweet, maybe.
Having a surly whatever.
I always have a hard time pouring these crowlers.
Oh, that's like an old. Okay, well, this is like old school Foster's can there.
Yeah, it's big. I didn't spill, so that's a win. Sometimes they just don't pour very well. But
I still think that was one of the best beginnings ever to a GPL podcast. Glug, 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 glug.
That was a darkness too. That was everybody was like, "What is that?" Yeah, this is a delicious beer.
Hey Sal, you still on there? You still watching? It was nice to see Matt in there.
Yeah.
Sal started all of this, folks, when he got us all together on the old Pride on Ice website. Back in the day.
Thanks for doing that. That's how I met a bunch of people through the Pride on Ice skates. I was like, I've been following this program since I was about 5, so it seems like a good crew. And then, got to play with the Rubes a little bit. It was fun.
Our first skate was in 2002. It was that spring.
Huh.
The very first POI skate. I'm thinking maybe next year we're going to have a 20-year reunion.
Why not? Could do it.
$2. We had one goalie, $2 hat and goal. I know Grey Eagles kid, the Rat. I don't remember. I think he might have. I don't know if he played or not. I know he was in the picture. Back then we were calling him the Rat, but Pat the Rat. But USCHO days. Yeah, we had a USCHO game too. I want to.
There used to be like a Final 5 USCHO game, wasn't there?
Actually, there was a Frozen 4 USCHO game.
Okay.
And I remember playing in one. Jeez, was it that year? Well, I maybe it was 2011. No, it wasn't 2011, was it? It may have been when the Dogs won it. I can't remember. I know we did a USCHO game when the Frozen 4 was here. So it was either 2002 or 11, I guess. I'm guessing it was 11. Denver, they rented Magnus. We used to have games up at the deck and at the Amsoil. We do not actually. I never played at the deck, or did I? I know we played Amsoil a couple of years. Did you play in those games, Viggs? Didn't you?
No, you didn't. I don't think I made it to those.
Because we've done Amsoil twice, I want to say, for those series up there. Yeah, Brent says it was 2011. He said it was at St. Thomas. I think we ended up going out to Billabong's after that on the strip. I don't think Billabong's is there anymore, but yeah.
Yeah, 2011, I might have been in California for my little stint there.
Yeah.
Because I went to California for a year and a half for, the woman I was going to marry. So we weren't engaged yet, but it was trending that way. And
it was trending that way.
She had to go out there. So I figured when I put all my stuff in the moving van with her stuff, and I was eventually going to get out there. So
you were stuck anyway. Once you put it in the van, you're screwed.
Yeah, it was a good place to be for a year and a half. Warm weather. Didn't have to worry about snowfall like is coming this evening tomorrow.
You know what, Brent? I think it might have been big. I want to say that USAHO skate in 2011 was at Big, not St. Thomas. And that's why we went to that place along the strip in 494, because it's just off of France, right along the front road, just past Sensors. So the Bloomington Ice Garden, Brent. I don't think
we had a lot of skates there with the Enken Bears and Lindquist and his crew, because they liked getting that rink, and then they took all the photos and stuff. That was fun.
Mm-hmm.
We played at Excel a couple times with that group, and
I've only played the Excel once. It's when the lockout was happening, and they had a free skate.
Yeah, we rented ice there a couple times.
I wasn't a fan.
It's different.
It's not just different. It was so hot. I wasn't used to a big arena, because everyone says, "Oh, it's cold arenas," but I was so hot playing it at the X compared to other rinks.
The ice is kind of softer too. Like you just notice it's not as hard and fast. Like Mariucci has awesome ice. Like it's cold, it's really hard, it's really fast. They do a great job along the dasher to make it, smooth and even. It's a great rink. But Excel, it's a little bit softer in the corners. It just feel awkward,
Yeah, even just when we were warm ups, I was just like, I sweat anyway, but my God, I was just sweating like crazy. I'm like, too warm for me.
Yeah, I read a pretty funny article on Joe Thornton this week on The Athletic. There's lots of great stuff on there, even though I'm not writing right now. I'll get back there eventually. I think they like me as a writer. Just need not to have a pandemic, apparently. Oh
yeah, they've been cutting back everywhere.
Yeah,
that's just the facts.
They kind of had that failed video content move that they made. They got a bunch of investment, and they tried to get like Armin Katan and some other people to shoot video stuff, and that didn't really pan out, I don't think, for them. And so it's kind of like lost capital, and all the belts tightened, and there's just not enough subscribers for college hockey there yet. It's kind of like a thing on the side for them. Anyway, Joe Thornton this week, they had kind of like a thing about him and his career. Mm-hmm. And when he was in San Jose, they have like all the glove drying machines and stuff. Where you get to the bench, you give the manager your gloves, and they put them on the dryers. Joe Thornton's like, we're not fucking doing that. Play with your gloves. He's just like, you are not pampered children. Get after it. And I was just like, all right, setting the tone, Joe Thornton. Getting these kids to play. And he's just a strong personality. But
are they doing that during the game?
Oh, yeah. Some players during the game. Some players, they get off the ice and they hand their gloves. Like Zach Parise is one of the players that does this. He gets off, hands his gloves to someone, gets a fresh pair. And I'm just like, come on.
Yeah, that is ridiculous. Because, down at Mariucci, the opposing teams are always bringing their dryers and, in between periods.
Maybe. I could see it in between.
And they're drying it out. But during the period, I had no idea they were doing that.
Yeah, shift to shift. Crazy.
Oh, my God. Yeah, that is kind of pampered bullshit. That's no.
Yeah. Yeah, the Nate Schmidt article on The Athletic this week, very blue, very raw, lots of cursing. It was pretty
Deutsch said that in the
not safe for work. Yeah, not safe. Not safe for young eyes. Keep them out of there. But
they had a great video. They put out like a 4-minute video of him in one of his practices.
Yeah,
I thought was solid from the Vancouver.
I would mic him up for every skate. I'd just be like, you're just gonna get great stuff. You might have to have the dump button with him, but
well, you're gonna have the dump button for every hockey player, really. I mean, but
especially Nate Schmidt.
Well, here's the problem, though. He's at Vancouver. We've really kind of learned to hate Vancouver all these years. Now it's going to be much harder to hate the Vancouver Canucks with Schmidt there.
It is going to be hard. He's such a fun personality.
He is.
Yeah. He's a good dude. But he is weird. He brings the weird. It's good though sometimes.
I think a lot of times it's just like he's not afraid for his child side to come out. And that can be so freeing where you could just have some fun and it could relax the other guys too.
Did you read the article?
I hadn't had a chance. No, I haven't. I hardly read anything these days.
When he was playing for the Caps, they had a safe word, penguins. If he was ever getting too weird, like in a serious situation, like if he was just being too goofy and it was like a serious moment and like he was weird now, like Ovi or Holpe or whatever, they'd be like penguin. and he would know, okay, I went too far. It's a game day or it's between periods. But I thought that was hilarious. He's like, so coach, optional tomorrow? No, just checking, You sure? Like an optional.
We need those kind of characters in hockey.
Oh, it's good. It's great for the game. I was a little disappointed, like during the bubble, that we didn't get more on ice audio out of that time because it was perfect. All the fake crowd noise stuff.
I could do without that.
I don't care about that. I would rather hear the guys on the bench chirping it with a dump button, you know?
I think it's cable. Most of the time. They're not going to get in trouble. I would love to hear some of that. I know, obviously, you don't want to be with your kids around and things like that.
Yeah, my 8-year-old, we're watching the World Juniors when they win, and then you hear all the F-bombs and stuff, and my son's just like, oh, they're pretty happy.
Well, I heard part of the football broadcast last weekend, some of the Nickelodeon stuff. Was it Patterson for Chicago was kind of heard over Nickelodeon. Whatever he was saying, I didn't pay attention too much, but I heard about it. The Nickelodeon thing was crazy. Did you see any of that broadcast?
I didn't. I was on a football kind of a boycott. We were all about hockey for our screen time this last weekend, so
I'm starting to get more anti-football because, especially that national championship game. I turned that on and you know what? It seems like some of the football announcers, they just can't allow the game to breathe at all anymore. As soon as the play-by-play guy stops talking, the color guy is talking. I'm like, it literally got to the point where Monday night, I'm like, started listening to us. I'm like, I just can't listen to it. I put the mute on. And I turned on the North Dakota game on the radio, playing CC, just to have something else going. Because you know what? I'm like, I can watch the game. I don't need to just hear this constant talking.
I don't mind it. I like Chris Fowler. I like Herb Street. I think they do a good job. But I'm a pretty big football guy. I coached high school football for 12 years. Mm-hmm. I played college football. I know a lot about what is happening in the game. It's fun for them to break it down for me as well, because they've talked to the coaches, so they know what Sark is going to do to try to get his offense going. So they're giving away, some of the game plan as the game goes on.
Yep.
I think Kirk Herbstreit has a lot of insights to Ohio State that he can give away as the game goes on. I don't mind that. The NFL stuff,
I like the guys. I just wish they'd let it breathe just a little bit.
The NFL stuff I'm less into right now, just because the NFL.
I'm sorry, what? The NFL?
Yeah, I'm having a hard time with the NFL.
I would. Here's the thing, though. I was retweeting. College football is too much of a foregone conclusion these days. You got 3 or 4 teams, and just like I retweeted somebody earlier this week, you get 3 or 4 teams, and that's it.
But I like greatness. And I wouldn't mind if Minnesota hockey got into the greatness where they were one of the top 3 teams every single year, along with like a BU and a Michigan and a North Dakota. I think I would be just fine with that.
Yeah, but look how many different teams we've had win it. And there is more parity in college hockey. There is no parity. I mean, there's parity after the first 4 or 5 teams in college football.
Yep.
The rest of it, they're like literally. They're like 2 divisions ahead. I mean, Ohio State got their asses handed to them. That game was never going to be close. And that's the championship game. And the thing is, Ohio State took care of Clemson, who was a pretty damn good team as well.
But I think the thing is with Alabama is they had so many players pass up turning pro to come back and make that season happen. Like they have talked about this 2017 recruiting class for Alabama. They had like 6 or 7 5-star recruits, and 5 of those guys are first-round picks. Like they hit on those guys, and I think only like 2 of them left early. I mean, could you imagine that happening with Minnesota hockey if they just had imagine if Johnson, Faber, and Lacombe stick around for another 2 years, what they could accomplish.
Yeah. Saban, 7 national championships.
It's amazing. He's the GOAT. He's the best CEO of a college football or college athletic program ever.
And he makes
done such a great job.
Shit ton of money too.
He earns it.
He does. I don't know. I do like your idea when you tweeted, limit the scholarships, bring it down quite a bit, 15 or 20.
Or make it like college hockey. Like college hockey, you can have a roster of 25 kids, but you only get, you can have your roster of 100 kids, but you only get 70 scholarships. So you divide them up if you want, have walk-ons if you want, make it where kids don't get full scholarships, just like hockey. It would make things pretty interesting, I think. But I don't think coaches will ever go for that.
Especially now with more money coming towards possible paying these kids.
What I would do is I would lower the number of kids who get full rides and allow them to pay them. Like you have 50 scholarships and you can pay them. Figure it out. That'd be crazy, but
I don't know.
There's so much money in college football right now. It's unbelievable. So
except this year.
They're still probably doing okay. I mean, the players and the coaches and stuff, they're still getting paid.
They're still getting paid.
It's going to be on the athletic departments to take loans. I can't wait to see what happens at one of the, I think a regents meeting is coming up pretty soon.
What the deficit's going to be? It's
because I think Coyle's presenting at the next regent meeting. I don't think it's on here yet, but February 11th, 12th, that's usually when they do a lot of the athletic budgeting stuff. And it's going to be interesting what Mark has to say. They've tried to solve some problems with attrition and not rehiring. They've had a little bit of a bloodletting of administrators in the last year of people leaving. So it'll be interesting. You know, I hear from our football friends over at Gopher Illustrated that the coaches are looking for raises. And I'm like, ooh.
Good luck with that.
Good luck with that. I think Fleck would have a tough argument. I get it that there's a lot of money in college football, but not right now.
I mean, the thing is, COVID and your season wasn't that great. That was a letdown of a season.
It was a letdown. It kind of depends on what your expectations were.
But you know, Alabama's only lost to two Big Ten teams in like the last 20 years, and Gophers are one of them. 2004 Music City Bowl.
That way, Mace.
Oh, Mote. I don't think he's a fan of the NCAA, or maybe it's college football, like criminal enterprise.
Well, I mean, they're taking advantage of these athletes.
Oh, yeah.
They are. Athletes are in the situation they are because the NFL doesn't have like a minor leagues or anything. I mean, you look at every other sport, they've kind of taken that away. Baseball's got their minor leagues, hockey's got AHL, and there's plenty of opportunities in Europe to play. NBA's got their G League now, and they've had so many kids who have done the one-and-done stuff.
The bowl games are an enterprise? Oh, yes, the bowl games I think is
The bowl game thing is interesting with the sponsorship, like Eric's saying here, is that a bowl sponsor might say, don't skip the bowl game. We will give you $50,000 basically to play in the bowl game to a player. And you do like an appearance for us, or you do an ad for us or something. And all of a sudden, instead of Rashad Bateman opting out of the season, he sticks around and plays in the bowl game and gets a paycheck out of it. Interesting thing.
Yeah, the whole bowl thing is like essentially NCAA rules go out the door, don't they, when they go to bowls? Because they're getting gift packs and things like that.
There's a limit. There's a limit to how much they can get in a gift.
Yeah, but you know what? You pay for a kid's meal. That's an NCAA violation. You get a big kit with like an iPad and all this other crap in it, and it's not a violation. That's a scam.
It is a bit of a scam.
That's a scam right there.
You get a PS5.
And it's not a joke.
It's not a joke. They get it.
But you know, if you were to take Sammy Walker to McDonald's and pay for his McDonald's, that's a violation.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty messed up. And then,
Weird.
you know, yeah, I'm not a fan of the bowl system. It's because it's not controlled by the NCAA. Well, the championship's not controlled by the NCAA. It's not an NCAA championship. It's a college football championship. We haven't had, I mean, has there ever been a Division I NCAA champion or 1A, 5A, whatever they call it? No, it's all something else. That's maybe how they get around it. But I don't know. I've never been a big fan of bowls, and you think about how much did Minnesota lose last year by going to a bowl game? They usually ended up having to pay, don't they? Because they have to have a certain lot of tickets, and there's a lot. I mean, the travel expense. And there's a lot of things that they got to pay for.
When you go to like Detroit or the Music City Bowl, you'll end up losing money. But when you go to Florida for a bowl game like Minnesota did, you usually do okay. And your conference revenue is going to like you in that bowl. So.
Okay, I don't know who this dude is.
Chat's getting interesting.
Yeah, we're going to put that user in timeout. Oh, yeah, Mike. I just deleted all that crap.
There you go. What an administrator. This is what makes a great community is moderation. Moderators. Gopher Illustrated. I don't know if anybody who's in our chat is a Gopher football fan, but Ryan Burns is the big guy over there. And he has just had political Armageddon on his site with people.
Really?
Oh, it's been a disaster because they don't have the mods that we have at GPL who keep that stuff in check, and we give people timeouts and things like that. But it's been a difficult time because this is a crazy time as a country. So
it is, and I it's been amazing how good the users on GPL have been.
Good self-restraint
because we're all over the place in the political spectrum. We just are. And the thing is, you're not going to convince somebody to change. You're just not. Religiously, politically, whatever.
Here's my thing. You're not going to convince them to change unless they're interested in listening and having a discussion. Some people do not want to have the discussion. So, goodness. Some people do not even want to have the discussion. So don't have it with them. There's always the saying, don't wrestle with a pig in the mud because you'll both get muddy and the pig will like it.
Yeah, some people are taking over here.
Yeah.
Maybe
that's a sign.
I don't know. Is that showing for you? Are you seeing that?
Yeah, I'm seeing it.
Hide show. Are you guys seeing this? I'm trying to see if I can get rid of it. Hide user on this channel. Let's do that. There we go. Deleted. I think it was the same dude. Jeez, get a life, dude. Get a life.
We don't want to talk about
it. We had almost 40-minute overtime last week with Todd.
I know. Todd's great. I love Todd.
Hey, I've already got him scheduled in a couple of weeks when the Badgers come to town. So
good job.
And it looks like we're gonna have Paul as well, Capinegri, coming up
for the Buckeye series.
Buckeyes, yeah. I already got it. Was it a couple weeks away too? It was like 3 weeks away.
Maybe we'll get Drew on. I can ask him about his culinary pursuits. He's very interested in my Instagram feed. I like to post a lot of my food. If you want to see my cooking skills, check me out on Instagram.
I just got on Instagram and I'm not using it much yet. I don't know.
The players all use it now. Like that's where the players do a lot of their stuff. I don't know if anybody saw the Junior Reporter Go for Hockey thing. They had Owen, who's a St. Paul Capital, interview Robbie Stucker and Johnny Sorensen and Sampo Ranta, and he asked Sampo about his dog. And Stucker and Johnny were like, "What? You have a dog?" And he's like, "Yeah, I have a dog." He's like, "How'd you know about that?" And Owen's like, "I follow you on Instagram. I see your stories. I know about your dog." So
I don't know. I don't need more things to follow. And now a friend's trying to say, another friend's like, get on TikTok. I'm like,
I will not get on TikTok. So
I'm not going to get on TikTok.
Yeah. Owen's a pretty neat kid over at the St. Paul Capitals. So I hope they bring him back for some more stuff because I know Stucker has a soft spot in his heart for him and wants to try to keep that going. So it was cool to see Deutsche get that going.
And corrupt, yes, FIFA, IOC, NCAA.
I think FIFA and IOC are like at a different stratosphere than NCAA.
NCAA is our local version, just the next division down.
Yeah, it's a separate tier. It's non-scholarship corruption.
Yeah, I'm not doing TikTok, but I just have a friend saying, "Oh, everything's on TikTok." I'm like, if there's really decent stuff on TikTok, it usually ends up being on somebody's Twitter somewhere, and I see it there. So,
yeah, Ranto likes being a college student. By the way, Hapke, I think he enjoys it. I mean, there's always a chance he sticks around for another year. I think it's really benefited him to stick around and play college hockey this year. And then some people were concerned he'd go try to play AHL. He's developed a ton. I think another year would make it even easier. I know Scott Bell was often fond of telling me every NHL team only has 50 contracts. If you take one of those contracts and you struggle and they don't think it's going to work out, they do not give you slack. They will send you to the ECHL. And if you have a bad 2-week stretch there, you will be a free agent and looking for a job in Europe. So it can only help him, I think, especially with the Avs. They are so deep. If you want to play for them, you better be ready to play. So, and Cal's done great work with Sampo.
Are the rules still the same?
Or,
I mean, if he gets to his senior year and plays through it, can he?
I think he needs.
Or is it? I mean, that used to be the rules. What has that happened? I mean,
you would have to have a post high school year somewhere. So it depends on when he graduated high school. If he played a year junior after that, and then played 4 years of college, then that rule kicks in.
Mm-hmm.
But if he basically went from being a high school senior to a college hockey player, which I think he did, because he came in pretty young because he was still a world junior guy last year. So I don't think he can do the free agent thing unless he were to go all the way to fall. If he goes all the way to fall after playing his senior year, then he could sign his contract anywhere.
Well, and that's kind of what I meant, but
because you can sign like Tyler Nanny, wasn't really a threat to play last year somewhere differently, but he could have signed a contract with anybody after last year when he was done playing at college.
Keep getting get a different name each time, but they keep coming in with these bogus messages.
Yeah.
If that happens during a pod, am I the only one who can moderate that? I wonder.
I think so. I can't do it. But Drew's spot on. If Casey Middlestat was still playing for the Gophers, he'd be in fine shape to transition to Buffalo right now. But he went early and struggled, and he didn't find that part of his game that he needed to find to be a successful professional. And now he's maybe going to be an AHL tweener.
Okay, a couple of you guys there. You're always here every week. I'm going to make a couple of these people moderators. Steve, Brent, I'm going to make a couple of you guys moderators. So if you see this crap during the show, you could put hide user on the channel. Here, Eric, Brewer. Let's make a few of you guys moderators. So if this kind of crap happens during the show, you can just hit the little 3 dots and say hide user. So hopefully you guys can help out.
Helps.
Yeah. So it helped because all of a sudden it was like that person came in, then they came in as a different person, I'm waiting for him to come in again, but I think we're gonna have to end the show.
Well,
you already finished your beer.
I know, a crowler too. Jeez.
It's gone. You're hammered.
What we got here? 8%.
Yeah, I'm giving you guys the power to ban. So if you guys, not ban, it's just if you just hover over a post now, you should be able to say, report, remove. I would just say hide user on this channel. I would just do that.
If you're out there looking for beers, this one's a good one. Portage, Split Decision, West Coast, double IPA with El Dorado, Sabro Cryo, and Citra Cryo. Really good.
I made you a moderator too, Mote.
Elite, row that boat.
Row that boat. out.
He'll figure it out next year. They have a good team coming back.
Christ, Viggs is pounding.
Well, I got to get to bed after this. I'm not going to sip this until midnight.
Yeah, he's not going to suck on it.
Rube. Not like you. I've got kids in the morning. I've got to figure it out.
I don't. No kids. It's quiet here. It's nice.
Yeah, I got to.
Oh, there it is. Same as Old Miss coach was playing with buttholes.
No idea.
It's the same thing.
Portage is up in Walker.
Let's see if one of these people. Let's see, guys. Let's see. One of you guys can moderate this guy. Let's see what happens. We'll let them do it here. Let's see what happens.
Also, remember, I'm a big guy. I can handle this.
Look at it. Just comes over and over.
Now, luckily, Stinson Wine, Beer, and Spirits, my local, gets Portage deliveries. I think they only have about 10 or 15 places they distribute to. So, pretty solid.
Yeah, it's definitely a bot, guys. I don't know what the deal is. Now you got to do. You got to do this. You got to select hide user on this channel. That's what I just did.
I just
all right, gang. We're shutting her down, gang.
I was only seeing the top chat. I wasn't seeing the live chat.
I've done that before.
Sorry, guys.
All right, I'm going to stop the live stream, guys. Say goodnight.